Everything is Awesome is part of Courts and Parts, a podcast network featuring pop culture, TV, movie, and geek podcasts. Check out some of our other shows, like TV Ate My Brain, Let's Chat with Revelin Friends, and Podstalgic at courtsandparts.com.
Awesome. Just tell people they're awesome and mean it.
Awesome.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome. That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No, you're awesome.
No, you are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I am your host, Kev, and this is the show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. It is a new year, and that means a new update to the show. We are changing, normally when we hit our anniversary mark, I have had the thought that I will change the show up just a little bit to keep us fresh and new. Last year, I said, let's stop doing two-parters. We'll go for an hour and a half if we have to. We'll go for 2 hours if we have to. We've had a couple two-parters here and there because it just made sense to do it. But this year, we are going to do what most normal long-form interview shows do, and that is we're just going to do a post-intro, post-outro. We're going to just cut after the intro right into the middle of a conversation that I had with my guest. So that's what the big change this year. That's what you're hearing with episode 101 here. Really, really excited to be beyond the 100 episode mark. Big thank you to everyone who came out to that 100th episode at Amalgam Comics and Coffee House in Philadelphia. Another thing that's changing this year is our Patreon. It's still going to be at patreon.com/thatentertains, but we're making some changes. We're expanding the That's Entertainment Podcast Network, and we're going to make that Patreon more focal to the podcast network. So go there if you want. Nothing has changed right now. It's going to take me about a month to develop the new reward system, the new goal system, and whatnot. But, I mean, literally for the price of a cup of coffee a day, you could donate and pledge for a month worth of, exclusive content, early access, and stuff like that. It's going to be, we're expanding the content to the entire podcast network, that if the shows want to hop in, they'll hop in. They'll have their own deals that they're going to do. And the idea is to cover hosting costs, and then beyond that, just help each show grow by covering advertising fees and stuff like that for the shows. And heck, if we can get a big enough user base from you guys to pledge to us, then that just means we can do bigger and cooler things, like maybe do a podcast meetup, a network meetup, or something like that. So make sure you check out Patreon. Of course, you can also support us by following us on social media, facebook.com/RealAwesomePod, twitter.com/RealAwesomePod. Facebook is where this show does most of its updates, so make sure you follow us there, like that page there. And then Twitter is, I do most of my Twittering on at That Nerdy Kev. So if you want to talk to me directly, that's the best place to do it. Of course, Patreon is a great place to help us with, monetarily, but if you can't do that, then the next best thing is iTunes reviews. If you leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, that Apple math does something so that we show up in the lists. And then that means more people are seeing us there, they're checking us out, they're listening, and hopefully they're doing the same things that you guys are doing, and we're just growing the show, and we can not only grow our audience size, but then be able to do cooler things, like live shows and stuff like that. We also have another easy way. Doesn't even all it involves you doing is saying, "Hey man, listen to this podcast. Everything is awesome on awesomepodcast.com. It's a great show. You're gonna love it." Word of mouth recommendations is another great way to do that. Before I introduce my next guest for episode 101 to kick off the next 100 episodes, I want to talk about something that I recently kind of. I don't want to say I went public with it. I'm about to do that now. But as you can tell, if you're listening to this, you know that this is a couple weeks late. And typically in October through December, the last quarter of the year, in 2016 and 2017 is rough for me. It's right around the time where my uncle got worse with his cancer and eventually passed away. So and then his birthday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, everything happens at the end of the year, around the day that he died. So it's a tough time of the year for me, and normally that's where I slog off. But one thing I don't talk about too much, I may have hinted at in the past or joked about in the past, but never seriously said anything, and nothing that has to do with this show specifically, just some crappy emails that were sent back and forth. Something came to light where I addressed some depression that I go through, and for the most part, it is it's low-key depression. I usually can just work around it. Normally I do. My family, my kids, my fiance, they're whenever I'm around them, I'm always smiling and I'm never really feeling depressed. But for the last few weeks, since the new year, I have not been looking at the podcasting stuff that I had to do, which normally makes me smile. I was just dreading it. There was this weird, deep feeling of dread, and there was a foot on my chest, just thinking about it. And it's bad timing because we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary show that we're doing as a festival this year, like we did last year. So really bad timing for this to happen, and I think I'm kind of getting out of it right now. I'm doing my best to send the emails I need to send, finalize everything that I need to finalize. So I'm a little late in doing that stuff, but regardless, I don't want to say that that's the excuse that we haven't been posting anything lately, but that is the excuse that I haven't been posting anything lately. Is that I just been, it's one of the few times in the year that I get depression bad enough where it's like it's got its throat, or it's like it's got its hands wrapped around my throat, and it's crushing depression. And I don't think normally my medication is podcasting. I'll listen to, Full Belly Laughs. I'll listen to Party of One. I'll listen to Campaign One Shot. I'll listen to, a slew of local podcasters here in Philadelphia, and tell the Smodco ones from Kevin Smith and whatnot. And that usually, gets me through the day. That usually, makes me smile when I feel like not smiling and whatnot. This particular bout with it was a little bit tougher. I've been going to bed pretty much as soon as everyone else goes to bed. That's not normal for me. I have been sleeping in, which is not normal for me. I've been sleeping probably close to 10 hours a day. I'm usually sleeping maybe 4 to 6 hours, just so that I have extra time to do all this stuff. So I know that there's something wrong, and I'm slowly course correcting, slowly getting there. I don't want to get too much into it because I've talked to Chris Revel, who I was recently a guest on his podcast, on Let's Chat with Revel and Friends. And he kind of mentioned it he's been mentioning it in his podcast here and there about his depression. And I asked him if he'd come on my show again, A, crossover, I did his show, he does my show, but B, I want to take the conversation a little bit serious and talk about depression and whatnot. So, look forward to that in the future. And it's going to be a bit more serious than normal, but it's a discussion that needs to be had. Depression can lead to a lot of bad things, so talking about it is always better than not. And it's something that I'll talk to my fiance about every now and then, but even the co-founder of That's Entertainment and Crew Number Studios, he didn't really know how serious this was until I brought it up in an email. Anyway, let's get on to happier days, happier times. Let's talk about our guest this week, Matt Fowler. He's an actor and producer who has worked on multiple high-profile projects. They've been featured in several magazines like The Hollywood Reporter and LA Times. His appearances include the Delusion Lies Within, a VR series produced by Skybound Entertainment, the same people who bring you The Walking Dead. He's been in Game of Thrones, the musical, the parody musical, that I believe they changed the name to Shame of Thrones, the rock musical. It ran in LA, the 2017 San Diego Comic-Con, and it recently wrapped a run Off-Broadway in New York City. He's produced a series, Zombie Whisperer, that he co-created with his wife, Kelsey, I'm going to mispronounce her last name, Boet. And he co-wrote and starred in the short film Darla. And he also appeared in the short film The Trapper and many, many other things. His IMDb page is there. You can go check it out. But Matt Fowler, Casey Spivey actually said, hey, here's Matt's information. I think it'd be a great guest. And man, I loved this conversation, and I can't wait for you to hear it. He's created an audio drama called Space Ward. Space Ward is an epic neo-noir audio drama about survivors of a massive space attack in therapy. It's kind of like a cross between Mass Effect and In Treatment. It's really good. At the time of me recording this intro, it's 9 episodes in, and it's so good. I really, really dig it. A quick little synopsis of the plot is: Galactic Marine Lieutenant Michael Stone has been charged with heading up the Psych Ward on the Gallant, a Sapien destroyer, and he doesn't like it. After a terrible attack that nearly destroyed the 12 species of the Galactic Coalition, all that is left is a small armada at the edge of space. Tensions are high, and the stakes are even higher. Space Ward is great. I love it. I can't recommend it enough. I swear to you, these intros will not be 10 minutes long in the future. This one's just a little bit longer because I had to talk about some things. Without further ado, let's kick it over to Mr. Matt Fowler! Like long-form shows do it, where I'll do my intro post interview, and then so I don't know. I'll figure out where we're gonna cut in at some point.
Nice.
But I don't know if Casey told you anything about the show, but it's pretty lax, I guess is the word. Very informal. I do zero research.
Yeah, nice.
I say it's to better the show, but it's just because I'm lazy.
I did like 5% research. I saw that you were a professional wrestler.
Yes,
that's pretty badass.
That's where was this where was this research at?
I don't know. It was on one of your Twitter profiles, I think.
Oh, it's probably on my main one where I'm an ex-wrestler.
Is that true? Is that real?
Yeah. So, I'm 33, so almost probably 16 to 17 years ago, we started wrestling in the backyard, and it was very basic stuff. We were too afraid to get hurt, I guess. But then we met up with these other guys that wrestled on a trampoline, and they had brought their style, which was semi-professional suplexes and DDTs and all the stuff that you see in the ring, and they brought it to the ground. Somehow we decided it was a good idea to eliminate the trampoline, but keep everything that they did. So for the longest time, we just wrestled on the ground. A tarp is what we used.
Well, I mean, that's less broken necks for sure.
That tarp saved many a neck.
I was also a backyard wrestler, funny enough.
Okay.
I am 31, and so it was probably about the same amount of time. Me and my best friend at the time, we actually went to a pro wrestling school. I was a captain of the wrestling team in high school, the regular wrestling team, and we went to a pro wrestling school together for about 3 months and kind of learned all the basic technique. And then his mom was crazy enough to let we cemented 4x4s into the ground in his backyard. God. We did 3 layers of pallets and then 2 layers of mattresses on top of them. And we had a full out ring with probably 8 to 10 people that were in the YWC, the Youth Wrestling Corporation.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, my name was Maniac.
Oh my God. Okay, so fast forwarding probably a year or two into our backyard, we decided to build a ring. We were still, I think at the time, I think I may have been, I guess I was probably 18 by this point, because I think I had actually Did I debut? No, I was still in high school, so I was probably 17. I didn't make my actual debut until like my professional debut until a year later. But when I was 17, so probably about a year and a half after we started, we had moved locations to a different backyard, and we built a ring very similar. Did we? I think. What did we do? We definitely used 4x4s. And I guess we did the same thing with cementing, and we bought from highspots.com, which I feel is like I don't know if you guys use them, but they were like the backyard wrestler's dream.
Yeah.
And we bought just like the turnbuckle things with the ropes and turnbuckle pads and screwed them into the 4x4s.
Yes.
And whatever, maybe we didn't use 4x4s at first, because whatever we used at first, I somehow ended up being like, all right, let's test the top rope. And because I was not a high flyer, like back then I was thin, but I always kind of was more methodical and was more, even though I was a Shawn Michaels fan, I was more like a Bret Hart style wrestler. And but I climbed to the top rope, and as I like put weight down to do the first jump, and I think I was just going to jump from like the top to my feet, the post snapped, so I like just crumbled. So we had to go back to the basics, and I guess we probably used something thinner than 4x4s. Or maybe we used 4x4s, and then we is there another size up from 4x4?
I think, well, yeah, you can do like railroad ties. You can do
maybe, yeah. I don't know what we ended up using, but we, instead of mattresses, we had tires.
Nice.
And plywood on top of the tires. And we put a lot of blood and sweat into that ring. And we were the Federation of Teenage Wrestlers, FTW. And then we eventually were shut down by the township that we wrestled in, which was Falls Township. So when we relocated to Bristol Township, we called ourselves Falls Township Wrestling to stick it to the man. We also, at that point, were all pretty much aging out of that teenager category. And we were all in our like 18, 19 to 21 age range. So it didn't feel right to be calling ourselves Federation of Teenage Wrestlers. But we actually, it's funny that you said your name is Maniac. We had a guy also named Maniac. And he eventually ended up changing his name when we went pro to, I think, Rex Mason or something like that. But I don't know what you guys did when you brought new people in, because that's like, eventually we started just like, people were like, oh my God, you guys are the wrestlers that everyone talks about. Like, can we do it? And we would have quote unquote tryouts, because we had a couple people that did the same thing. They were trained by a couple, by a school that was local to us. So Maniac, we told him, I was like, all right, man, wrestling's fake. That should be known by now, but just to put it out there, we're not really trying to hurt each other. So let's see what you can do. Let's try a power bomb. And I was the test subject, in which he lifted me up, and we explained to him, like, just like make it look like you're throwing me to the ground. Don't actually use any force. And I think at this time we were still wrestling in the backyard, so like I was used to taking bumps on the hard ground. But he lifts me up and with force throws me to the ground. Everyone said that they swore there was an indentation of my body into the ground. Wind knocked out of me. I had to step to the side and be like, guys, I'll be over there. Give me a year. I don't know. It was to this day. And I've had a bunch of, not serious injuries, but I've had a bunch of injuries from my wrestling days. That's probably the worst one.
Power bombs are brutal, man. They can be bad if you're doing them too. If you get them them too far up past the crux. Like I remember I went to power bomb somebody one time, and they went too far, and it like crunched my entire vertebrae. I think the worst thing that I remember from those days, and then, we digress, you could talk wrestling all day, but, one of my buddies, the guy who was trained with me, he did the Swanton, of course, we grew up in that generation. And he was going to go do a Swanton off of a ladder, in the backyard on the ground. And as he goes to do the Swanton, he didn't jump up or something. You know, he pushed off too hard, and the ladder went out from under him. It was like a 6 or an 8 foot ladder, and he just went face first into the ground. But it looked like the most amazing headbutt, like flying headbutt that you've ever seen. I thought he was dead. It was just crazy.
Oh my God.
He was fine. But when you're that young too, you know, you're like rubber bands. Like, I don't know how the pro wrestlers stay healthy at all. Like the ones who do it for years and years. I don't know.
I think it's that DDP yoga is all the rage now.
Yes.
It's funny. One of my friends picked that up, and I'm at that age now where like I have a little bit of extra weight on me, and I need something to kick me into gear to do something. And I also have all the aches from. I mean, I wrestled from, I think 2001 to, I mean, before 2001, but the official FTW start date was sometime in 2001. And I did it up until 2007 or 8.
Wow.
And half of that time was spent in the backyard, and then the other half was spent, we finally went legit. And in Pennsylvania, that's where I'm from. Pennsylvania is very, very strict on the laws of promotion, of sports promotion, for wrestling, boxing. You have to have licenses, and you have to have a security bond. That we actually think we were doing all kinds of wrong. Me and my friend that helped start it from years ago, we reconnected recently, and we were looking at I think everything that I don't know if you feel it, but every year around March, which is when we started back in 2001, I get the itch to do it again.
Yeah.
It's just March. I remember March as being my that's the FTW month, and so we were talking about it recently, and the reason we got a pro license was we kind of ran out of options of wrestling in the backyard, and it was just the next logical step for us to take it seriously. And I don't want to say luckily, because a couple of people who were in a car accident and got laid up for a little while, but they were in a car accident, and they made a settlement where somebody had 10 grand to just use for our insurance bonds. And this was probably circa 2000. God, when was our first live show? Probably 2006 ish.
Unreal. Unreal.
And here in 11 years later, in 2017, we discovered that you just needed to put up 10% of that 10,000. So I don't know what we were doing, but it's big old dummies. But yeah, we eventually went pro. I was trained by, I don't know, I never followed the independents. So I don't know if you did, but we were trained by Reckless Youth Tom Carter.
Yeah, no, I didn't really. Yeah, I didn't. I've only very recently started kind of, delving into the indies. Yeah.
Well, and it's because it's way more accessible.
Right. You don't have to have videotapes and
Yeah, and I'm just kind of getting back into the world of wrestling. Like a couple months ago, I got the WWE Network that I've only watched 1 or 2 times. I'm trying to find time to incorporate wrestling back into my life. But Reckless Youth, if you actually, like, he trained with William Regal. In the 90s, he was called the King of the Independents. He was on the cover of one of the magazines with like every title in the States around his arms. He was like a huge deal. He was eventually set up in the WWE farm system to be. Do you remember the Billy and Chuck gimmick?
Yeah.
And what was his name? Rico with the sideburns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Reckless Youth was. They wanted him to be Rico, and he said, "Okay, let me ask you, what is after that? Like, how do you see that gimmick's future?" And there was like silence. And he said, "All right, I'm not going to be doing that because." I'm not gonna, like, he was very proud of the reputation he had built for himself.
Yeah.
So he never made it to actual television because of life and whatnot. But I was very fortunate to be trained by somebody who's like, I think William Regal talks about him in his book. Like, he's very well respected in in the indies and in the pro. It's all pro, but in like the majors, I guess we'll say.
Yeah, right. Oh, so cool, man. So
Yeah,
cool.
it's oh man, it's talking and this is the second or third interview I've talked about it in the last month or two, and like it just like it's another reason for me to try to get to the gym or like I
DDP
think
yoga, man.
I need to hit up the gym.
Do it.
Yeah, well, that I need that to like stretch out my body and just get my back and my knees right, and then hit up the gym. I just like if I could drop 30 pounds and get to like a little bit lighter, so I'm not tired all the time. Feel like I could move around that ring again. Oh, I badly would do it one more time.
I know, man. I'm the same way. I mean, I never, I never went pro with with our league or anything like that. But my whole thing is like if I ever got to reach a point of fame with the acting, then I would definitely try to leverage that to get at least one appearance in something, even if it was like the local. California has LA has a bunch of big, huge promotions that are.
I'm sure.
Yeah, can't remember the name. One of them. Yeah, I can't remember the name, but it's one of them where like a ton of people that are in the WWE came from. Anyway, yeah, good times.
Well, I know like Brian Kendrick has something going on out there. Right. Like I think he's part of that 205. I'm so out of WWE.
Same
I think it's called
here,
the 205 is their cruiserweight. I think he's still with the WWE, but he also like has his own school out there.
Yeah.
And, I feel like LA and that area, and then the East Coast is huge in like the big successful indie markets. Yeah. But even though I say that, but like, I mean, Cody Rhodes is traveling the country and world,
doing all the indies, man. He's awesome, awesome.
Yeah, I wish there. I mean, I guess there is an easy way. I can just hop online. A lot of they all Spartaned up though, like the way I guess to get like the legitimate copies, it's like they all have their own subscription services now. Like Chikara, which is local to like semi-local to me. It's a Philadelphia based place. Like and I can't give it enough justice. But have you ever heard of Chikara? No. Okay, I don't give it the right pizzazz. That's something that my buddy Jeff Stormer does. Like he's so in love with it. But the easiest way to kind of describe Chikara is that it's kind of like a comic book, like live action comic book wrestling almost. What? I guess the best way to do it. Like they do themed quote unquote seasons. And I don't know, like the theme is more so just like how like their marketing works, but I think there's also like a theme in the storyline that kind of matches it. I mean, one year they did time travel.
Nice.
Where they had I'm describing this incorrectly, but basically wrestler A punched wrestler B, and it was like it was
a super punch into the past, like.
But it was something like that. It was like a reference to Back to the Future, and when he came back, he's like he got the briefcase that he needed. He went to the future, and got some briefcase or whatever. So fast forward to a year or two later, the guy that went to the future had been, I think like they may have. They either wrote him off or killed him off. I forget what exactly happened with the character, but he had been gone for a little while. And he came back for that event that was like they scheduled an event the day that he went to the future, and he came back and went to wherever, I guess the announcer's table, and grabbed the suitcase.
What?
and
it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It is. Yeah. I wish I could describe it.
No, I'm picking up what you're laying down. That's that sounds amazing.
It is. Yeah. So that's something I would love to get into. Ring of Honor is huge around here. Nice. Everywhere now. I think Ring of Honor is huge, but the guy who ran it I used to work at Staples back when I was like into wrestling and training with Reckless and stuff, and the guy that ran Ring of Honor he would come in whenever they were in town and just buy all our like clearance tables.
That's so badass. Oh my God.
Sweet. Yeah, I talk so much love for wrestling, but it's something that I literally I'm lucky if I watch 5 minutes of
Well,
it
you haven't
anymore.
missed anything for like basically since, I don't know, like 2006. You really haven't missed anything. So,
Well, yeah, and I would say I stopped watching officially when Shawn Michaels retired for good.
right. Right.
Because he was also, when he was around, he was also like a big input on the writing.
Yeah. And that's the thing, man. The writing has just, I mean, and they're trying and stuff. And I've had, I didn't watch it for a long time. And then I got the WWE pass like a year ago. And it's been okay. A couple people have grown on me, but man, the writing in the Attitude Era was just, and the acting too. I mean, and it's not a nostalgia thing. It's really not. There was the writing and the acting was, I mean, a lot of the people that were wrestling are movie stars and TV stars now,
that's true.
they could act, and they all excelled, they all pushed each other. Now it's like you're writing storylines based on Twitter followers, which is crazy, but
well,
anyway.
and the other thing is like the Attitude Era also had competition.
Yeah.
Like they had WCW to compete with, and I guess there's maybe like a sense of competition with the indie scene, but I don't think that's necessarily. I don't think WWE looks at that from like an audience standpoint, because at the end of the day, an audience is going to watch something mainstream. It's going to be WWE.
Yeah.
The only thing they have to worry about is losing talent to the indie market, because that's where you weren't able to make money a decade ago in the indies. Now you can be Cody Rhodes, or you can be the Young Bucks or whoever, and you can have
the
a decent, you can raise a family by working the indies now.
For sure.
So it's and like all my wrestling knowledge comes from listening to the Edge and Christian podcast now.
Nice.
I'm at the point now with their podcast. I didn't think I was going to get there, because I think they're one of the better wrestling podcasts. But just like Stone Cold's and Jericho's, if there's a guest that I don't like that week and I'm so behind on my other podcasts, I just end up deleting it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, that's like the one wrestling podcast that I'll listen to 95% of the episodes.
There's a really good one that my buddy just turned me on to, or it's for a while, but it's one of the commentators from WCW, I think.
Oh, interesting.
And it's also a guy that was like, one of the guys was a commentator for WCW, and the other guy was like, he was like an inside man for WCW. Mm-hmm. Oh my God! I'll find it after this is over, and I'll send it, because it's hilarious. Because one of the guys, like, he also worked with Vince, so he does like amazing Vince McMahon impersonations all the fucking time.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah, it's great.
That's cool. So that's our wrestling hour.
Nice. There it is.
I would. I'm in the same boat though. Like, I would love to get to a level of some sort of fame, whether it's through podcasting or. What if I ever decide to actually film anything through writing and directing? But like, I'm totally jealous of like Stephen Amell,
right.
Like being able to go hop on to WWE or Ring of Honor for like, one thing and just do his thing.
Yeah, pretty cool.
So where did you grow up? Was it in LA? Or?
No. I'm from Vermont originally.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town in Vermont, Castleton, Vermont. In the woods, kind of, doing all the hunting and fishing and sporting. And
so how does one go from, because that is, I feel like Vermont is a complete 180 from LA. As I'm staring out my window and I see all the snow starting to collect on my car, I know it's probably very similar in Vermont right now, but out in LA you're still like wearing shorts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it warmed up a little bit with the fires recently, but it's kind of a long story, but I can do a short version of it.
Whatever you think you need to tell and to get it out
there. When I was like 5 years old, I always wanted to be on Star Search, so I would do like I would do like, I had this thing called the American, I can't even remember. It was like the American cartwheel or something. It was like a cartwheel into a split that I would do for my family when they came over. And was basically an only child. I had 4 older brothers and sisters, but they were all like 15 years older than me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because my mom and dad both had kids from their first marriages, and then they got together and had me. So,
Okay.
so I was like in the woods, playing pretend. And then my mom had a daycare. And so there were always kids, coming over to my place. And so we would just go into the woods and just imagine all day. That's all summer, all winter. We would just be outside, today we're elves and orcs, or today we're army, or today we're Ninja Turtles, or, whatever it is. And we would plan out, the days, and then we would just imagine all day. That's what we used to do, our generation.
Yeah, totally.
And then, got into sports when I was in high school, and then I got injured. I got in a car wreck, a head-on collision that was real bad. And they told me I couldn't play football that season. So I tried out for the theater program, and I got like the role of Teddy in Arsenic and Old Lace, which was like kind of a big role. And I was only a sophomore. I think I was a sophomore at the time. And then all the theater guys, or mostly the theater girls, actually hated me.
Wow.
Because I was like an athlete who, was coming into their world and whatever. They were just super mean to me.
Interesting. I don't picture theater people being like bullies.
Yeah, and they're not. I think when you get into like the professional world, but this was kind of like, this was their safe place, and I was some dumb jock who was coming in to. That they thought anyway. That's how they'd seen me.
Which is so weird that we live in a world now, like in 2017, where I like those. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just perceive it differently. But I feel like all those social classes that we had in high school kind of blend together more.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. I mean,
yeah, because like my go-to example of that is like, there's no way. When we were in high school, you would ever see a commercial about a dude who builds a droid to go send to a girl's house he liked and to ask her to go see Star Wars. Like that would be warranted for me getting shoved into a locker. 15 years ago.
Yeah, and now he's the cool kid. That dude's the man. Yeah, no. My niece and nephew. My nephew's like 13, and my niece is like 20. And I mean, they really did. I mean, they grew up in a completely different world as far as rights and the way that you thought about people being different. And it's great. People talk a lot of smack about the newer generation, but I think I got a lot of hope for them.
Yeah, I mean, definitely pros and cons.
Yeah.
I can see things that the new generation that I'm like, oh God, come on, guys.
Yeah.
But I think there's way more. I guess hope is the right
Yeah.
word. Like, it's moving. I think in the right direction. The needle's going.
Yeah, for the most part. So anyway, did theater, liked it. And then I got a wrestling scholarship to Norwich University, and I was doing nursing. And one of my buddies was like, hey, who was on the wrestling team, he was like, hey, you should come audition for this musical. And I was like, okay, fine. So went with him. He had to drag me to it, auditioned for the musical, got a lead singing role in the musical.
Oh, wow.
And that was the first time I saw like, oh, wow, this is a profession. Like you can actually, there's people who do this professionally. They take it seriously, and you can get paid to do this. And that was kind of like click. And so I had to quit the wrestling team to do this play. So I quit the wrestling team, lost my scholarship. And that summer, so the summer after my freshman year, I had a dream about this acting school that I'd looked at online when I was in high school. And the next morning I woke up and I called this acting school, and it was in Dallas. and they set up an interview with me. They said I had to go to Dallas. So I flew from Vermont to Dallas and auditioned for this acting school. And the admissions advisor took me for a tour of Dallas, which I talked to all the other students, and nobody else ever got a tour. I don't know why she did it to this day still, but took me out to sushi and stuff. And so got into this school and went there. It was a 17-month associate's program in acting. Then was in Dallas for a couple years acting professionally. And then I was getting ready to move out to LA, and I was doing fight choreography for this play. And the woman who was building the weapons for it is now my wife. Nice. We met at that show, and she was going to go out and do makeup, and I was, heading out to act. So we dated for a month and then moved into a basement in Koreatown. And the rest is history. And now she's a makeup artist on the new series SWAT on CBS.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. And I'm here talking to you. So
yeah, that's the life story to the minute.
That's Vermont to here.
It is, I wish I had like something that I kind of followed from when I was a kid. Like, I don't have anything that I do currently, whether it's, this as a hobby / creative outlet, or, my desire to kind of like do something in film, or even my day job, which is IT related. Like, none of that. When I was a kid, I guess the closest thing I had was wrestling, but like, I haven't done that. And my last match after a couple of years off was in 2009. So like, it always blows my mind listening to like musicians and actors or filmmakers that are like, yeah, I just remember like when I was 5 years old singing and wanting to be on, the whatever show you mentioned.
Yeah.
Star Search. Like, cause to me, I was like, I guess like for me, it was like, I want to be in the WWE ring one day. But like, that's something that like, cause for me, like filmmaking, which is like, I would say, or I should say storytelling, because I don't want to like, I hate saying that, I write and I'm a writer, or I'm an entertainer, because I feel like I'm a Renaissance man. I'm pretty good at everything, but not a master of anything. So, but like my passion to like pick up a camera like happened when I was 25. Yeah. Like, that's a relatively new thing. I was like, I think if Kevin Smith can do this, like, I think I want to do it.
Yeah. I saw that picture of you with him. That's pretty badass.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He came to town the perfect weekend, like the weekend that I needed it, was the weekend my uncle passed away from cancer November 9th of 2016. So November 6th 2016, and they came to town on the November 3rd and 4th of this year. So like the 1 year anniversary, where I knew I was going to be super down and whatnot. Like, he came with Ralph for Hollywood Babylon on Friday night, and then just a standard Q&A on Saturday night. And I went to both, and it was like the perfect cure to like just kind of forget for the night and just laugh all night long.
So yeah, I mean, that's when you say storyteller, like that's what storytellers are for, I mean, it's great.
Yeah, I love like, and this podcasting is like a whole new medium to find, just brand new storytellers and new forms of storytelling, which kind of leads us into what Casey Spivey, who's been on the show before, said, "Hey, you should interview Matt." And I was like, okay, I mean, why not? And then I looked at what you were doing, and this is like literally when I started podcasting 10 years ago. I want to say like within 6 months, I was like, man, I would love to do like an old timey radio drama.
Yeah.
And I have yet to actually do anything like that. And like, so it's real special when I see people actually doing it, because, and like after listening, what's nice, I don't know how all audio dramas work, if they're all like short form, like
No,
I would say
most of them
okay.
aren't.
Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
which was something that was but go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so because what I like that it's short form, because or seemingly short form is what you have for your first 4 episodes at least, and because I was able to binge them and listen to them, and yeah, I always get hyped when I see audio dramas, because it's something like that. I think we're finally, me and some writing partners and stuff, we're gonna, I think, push forward in 2018, but yeah, so well, I guess we're talking about it, we might as well talk about Space Ward is it's
Yeah.
what it's called.
Yeah. Space Ward.
So tell me about Space Ward and how this came about.
I train at this acting studio called BGB Studios. It's Risa Brayman Garcia and Steve Braun started it, and basically their casting directors. Risa cast Speed and Masters of Sex and all these TV shows. The Affair that's on, and she casts SEAL Team right now. So I train there with all these actors that are like amazing, actors that are all, regulars on TV shows. It's become my artistic home, which is something that took me a long time to find. There were some actors that were in a class of mine that were in this podcast called The Bright Sessions, which I don't know if you've heard of it.
I have not.
It won best on iTunes in 2016. And
Okay.
it's therapy for the strange and unusual. So it's about this therapist named Dr. Bright, who does therapy for, they call them atypicals. They're basically, people with special abilities.
Okay.
So I got into that because I knew some of the actors in it, and I started listening to it, and I was like, God, it's not necessarily 100% my, I'm not necessarily 100% the demographic for it.
Okay.
But the format of it was like just mind blowing. It was just 2 people in a room talking, and yet like there was an underlying storyline that was happening, and the way that she wrote the characters, where she didn't give you everything right away. And she kept bringing the characters back, enough so that you really became emotionally invested in the characters. So that was a huge inspiration for me to write Space Ward. The other part of Space Ward that was an influence was, I'm just a sci-fi guy. I love Mass Effect. There's this writer named Joshua Dalzell, who wrote this amazing series called the Black Fleet Trilogy. And he writes these amazing epic space war novels. And when he talks about space war, he talks about like, going down the well, like the gravity well, when you're going into a system, like you have to navigate the gravity between different planets, and how you can use them to your advantage when you're doing tactical maneuvers against other ships. And if you have a gravity drive versus thrusters, that's going to allow you to, not have to be affected by gravity. The stuff he writes is like amazing. And that really influenced my wanting to write Space Ward. The other thing is that I've been doing dubbing for the last 2 years for this company, and I do dubbing telenovelas into English, and we sell them to Africa.
Okay.
And so I've gotten to be really comfortable behind a mic, and then I have a ton of close friends that I work with all the time that are audio engineers, and so I started becoming very, comfortable with, the engineering aspect of it and all that jazz. And then, I've been thinking about it for a long time. And with me writing, I've tried to get better at writing on a regular basis, but a lot of times it's an inspiration thing. It's like, I'll mull something around until something just clicks. And with Space Ward, I knew I wanted to write it. I knew I wanted it to be about this guy who was a therapist on a spaceship. But I didn't know why. And I didn't want to just have him be a therapist because I didn't want to like straight rip the Bright sessions. And so what really spurred me to write it was I found the stakes. And the stakes in Space Ward, if you, I don't want to give any spoilers, but you're going to get it in the first 30 seconds of the first episode, is that there was a massive space attack that killed everything. I mean, it killed all intelligent life in multiple galaxies, and it was one alien species that did this attack. And once I had that stakes of that these are the only survivors left and they've all lost everything that they have, that gave me so much to write with, because it's like, when you start writing a character, immediately you're like, okay, where is this person from? Because they've lost that. Who were this person's family? What was their life like before that? I mean, there's just the questions that you can bring into the writing, and it helps write itself, are really helped by those stakes. And I think that kind of really, from what I've been hearing anyway, from listeners, is that it kind of is nice to be thrown into that kind of high stakes scenario right away as well. And that kind of goes to the short form question that you were posing earlier, is if a lot of the podcasts that I've been listening to, because I actually got to meet with Lauren Shippen, who's the creator of Bright Session. She sat down and had coffee with me before I released my episodes. And she was like, you need to engage in the audio drama community if you want to, succeed and you want people to hear it. You have to, become a fan of these audio dramas that are out there and engage with them. And so when I started doing that, there's a lot of great stuff out there. I could just go on and on about the great podcasts that are out there. But for me, a lot of them, even the first episode, are like 30 to 45 minutes. And even if it's good, I find myself with a lot of them, like 20 minutes in, just kind of lost. And that was why I wanted to make these short and to really button it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny that the suggestion to get into the community. I mentioned earlier, I've been podcasting for at this point over 10 years, and it's the moment that I switched gears from trying to make a buck in podcasting, which for some reason took me 8 years to figure out that wasn't going to happen. And switching it to more of a mindset of like, let me do it for me and let me like kind of embrace the community. Because prior to 2015, like the community I could really only find was through Reddit, and the Reddit podcasting community is awful. They really crap on every idea people have, because most ideas you have are just kind of a play on another idea that already exists. And that's not good enough for, at least at the time, was not good enough for the Reddit, some of the Reddit podcasting groups. But circa 2015, 2016, when I start Everything Is Awesome up, like I kind of embraced like the podcasting community outside of that, which I don't think really existed.
Right. It was just starting. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, there was a reason I didn't embrace it, early on in my podcasting career. And I kind of was ignorant to it, probably right before I started this show. But like here in Philly, we have a great local community. And then obviously like online, there's a great Podden family, for the most part, is like a great little community. And every community, whether it's a group on Facebook or just like a bunch of people on Twitter, it's once I embraced that, it was, it made this show that much better for just me doing it. Like I feel creatively fulfilled, and like there's a listenership, and I want to do more, and it has yet to feel like a job, almost hitting the 2-year mark with this show. It's amazing.
So yeah, so embracing the community, I think, is super important. I mean, obviously, you embrace that community, that community shares something, an interest with you.
Right.
So they obviously are going to tune into your product a little bit, and whatever. And I agree. I used to do, our old shows were formatted on a 2-hour block. and had commercials in them. Very rate if I don't know if you guys in Vermont or Dallas or LA ever had any kind of like free FM format back when Stern first left terrestrial for satellite.
I
But
don't know. I mean, yeah,
because I've always been more of a talk radio guy anyway, and so here in Philly, our big rock station at the time was YSP, and that went to Free FM, which was just mainly all talk shows. So it was, Opie and Anthony in the morning, or I think when Stern first left, it was David Lee Roth in the morning, and then Danny Bonaducci eventually, and then like Opie and Anthony and a bunch of these guys. And at the 2 to 4 o'clock hour, there was just a 2-hour block of radio that most free FM markets had somebody local in. And so we kind of formatted our show after that. And it took me again, I would say even up until probably when I started this show to like realize, okay, let's try to keep things to an hour. And if shows go longer, I'll just break it up into 2 parts.
Yeah.
That way.
Well, and I think that's fine if you're, if you're doing an interview format, because people are constantly bouncing back and forth off each other,
Yes.
But for audio drama, there is the Big Loop. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one, but I think they just dropped their 4th episode. They're an audio drama, and their episodes are about an hour long. And I just listened to their first one recently, and it completely captured me. But it's rare, it's rare to be able to, and I think I'm just guessing, but it seems like they have some money behind it. But
I'm sure that helps.
Yeah, not that you need it. I'm doing Space Ward, in my closet, but I have some great actors that are a part of it. So
the time frame, and that's something that like I found with kind of almost reverting back to not necessarily all right, I'm going to do 2-hour shows, but I had a guest on that was like, if it goes 2 hours, just air it all at once. People will listen to it. They might have to pause it or whatever. But I agree that like there's something different about this, and I actually don't listen to many audio. In fact, I don't think I listen to any except for Space Ward at the moment. It's the zombie one. That's Are We There Yet? I believe it's called.
Right.
I have a whole bunch of their episodes downloaded on my phone that I just want to start listening to, but I haven't quite done it yet. But I listen to a lot of actual play RPG podcasts.
Yes,
which in a way is pretty similar to an audio drama, because it's very story driven, with some commentary banter to it, and they're all usually a minimum of an hour long. And I can say even with those, I can find myself as I'm like driving to work or whatever, like just about 20 minutes in, kind of like not paying attention 100%.
Yeah.
And then like, oh crap, I forgot I'm listening to this podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me get back. And that's nothing against them. Like they're all very talented.
Right.
And there's a reason I listen to them.
Yeah. Like the Adventure Zone. I don't know if you listen to the Adventure Zone.
It's on my list. I'm
great.
still catching up on One Shot. I entered the I tout myself being a big nerd and geek, but really like as much as I've always wanted to play D&D, I've only played a handful of times, and I didn't realize how big of a format it was in the podcasting world. And I hopped on it about 2 years ago when I started this show, and it just kind of like one show led me to the other and led me to the other. And I'm still catching up on, I don't know if you've heard of One Shot.
No.
One Shot is it's a Chicago-based show, part of the One Shot podcast network, and it's like every sometimes it's a 1 week storyline, sometimes it's 3 weeks, but they play a new system every session and whatnot, and it's
cool.
really, really good. A bunch of like improv comedians are usually on board for it when they're playing. But yeah, even that kind of stuff which is, very similar to audio dramas. I could imagine listening to an audio drama that's an hour long and like kind of getting lost in thought during it.
Yeah.
And that might be me and ADD or something like that.
I don't think it is. But I mean, in the same respect, that is the audience. I mean, you're looking for people who are, at work, at, on their commutes, like, so you want to have that content out there. But yeah, but for me with Space Ward, I was, like I said, I had the stakes and also it's my first time writing a series. I've done a bunch of, well, that's not true. I did Zombie Whisperer, but that was like 3 episodes over like 3 years. And
wow.
And this was, a lot more. And honestly, I was a little bit intimidated about it when I started writing it. And I think that's why I was like, okay, that's a great button. Boom. Like, done. Moving on to the next one. We got an episode. All right, great. Yeah. Like, but the more I think about it, like I'm really proud of all the seeds that I'm sowing. And I think that the listeners are going to really enjoy seeing the seeds that are in the show, flower and take form, because there's a lot of little, even in the first 4 episodes, there's a lot of little nuggets that are going to be expounded upon moving forward. So,
yeah, and what I really enjoy about the fact that it's short form is that, like, and I normally do zero prep when I interview a guest, but it was an audio drama. I was like, oh, I can't wait to listen to this, so I kind of threw it on my headphones as I was working the other day. And what's nice about that is, like, there's like little things that you may have mentioned, or the little seeds. I'm like, I don't even know what he's talking about. I got to go back and listen. It's what's great about short form is that it's something that has like a replay value, so that, like, if you miss something, or like, what, I remember something that awesome that happened in episode 3 or 4, you don't have to spend 2 hours
right
to go back and listen to it and find that thing that you're like, oh man, this is like what I wanted to like talk to whoever about or whatever.
Yeah.
It's the short form, and that's like, that actually really helps me going forward, like for when I want to plan something next year, like to keep it, because I'm an hour guy. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna hour and a half is what I'm gonna keep all my stuff at. And like, whenever I think about writing something that's episodic based, it's always like, all right, as long as I hit like that 30 to 35 minute mark, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, no, I think like the 10 to 15 minute mark is, that's almost like my buddy tells me this all the time. He's like, oh, I think if you think YouTube terms, you want it to be 7 to 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes tops.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's a smart move, because it's like your twist on it, besides like, your own story, but on the format, it's your twist of what everyone else is doing.
Yeah. And, I was talking to a buddy about it, one of my really close friends from acting school, who he's been listening to like audiobooks on tape for the last like year. His job is he runs presses on shirts. And, so he's just in a room by himself all day, just laying ink down. And he's just been listening to audiobooks. And when he listened to this, he was like, this is what I've been looking for this. And I was like, dude, me too. Like, that's why I'm writing it, is because I wanted to listen to this and I couldn't find it. There's audio dramas out there, but this type of like sci-fi space audio drama that I was looking for, I couldn't find it. And so that's made it so much fun, to write. The interest, something he said that really got me, which I was like, oh man, this is cool. He's like, when I'm listening to these things and, I'm in that world, he's like, I'm the guy who's gonna, you're bringing me into that world, but I'm the guy who's gonna look around. And so like, you better watch what you lay down as far as like crumbs in the writing, or like, he's like, I'm the guy who like, I'm going to look around. I'm not just going to listen, like, and I was like, man, that's such a cool image of like, somebody being brought into that world. Mm-hmm. The theme song I really lucked out on. That was from a composer named Graham Plowman. and he's an Irish composer. And I was on YouTube just looking for inspiration, and I came across that song, and I was like, this has got to be my theme song. And so I emailed him and, worked out an arrangement where, he let me use it for the theme song. So
That's very cool.
Yeah. I mean, and I actually shortened it for episode 4 just because the only note that I really got from anybody was like, the theme song's a little long, which I get because the episodes are short form. But for me, when I listened to it, it felt like the theme song was like taking me out into space,
Yeah.
And yeah.
Intros are so tricky because like you have one mindset of what you want to do, and I'm coming from a non episodic point of view when it comes to podcasting, but like a lot of notes I get from one of my my best friend is like, I think you could probably tone to shorten that intro up.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but like I don't know, I like that it's I try to get it in at 30 seconds, but like I think the intro for this show is probably by the time the stingers air and the intro airs and I kick in with my dopey intro, I think we're at about a minute, maybe 45 second to minute mark, which is a little bit long maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, and yours is an hour. I think my intro in the first episode is almost that long, and it's a 10-minute episode,
Yeah,
So.
but I'm an intro guy. Like if you have a good intro, and like mine is, I stole a bunch of clips from movies.
Nice.
To be my intro, like it's just a bunch of people saying "awesome" over and over again.
Right.
So but that's as much as I've only had that one quote unquote negative note. It's like you could probably shorten it up a bit. Everyone else that has said something, but I have one guy who. I think he's it's Adam, I believe, Christopher. If I remember, if I'm saying that name correctly, it could be the other way around. It could be two other names put together, but from the After Six podcast, I believe it's Adam Christopher. And buddy, if I'm getting your name wrong completely, I'm sorry, but you know what? Travis likes wrestling and you don't, so that's your punishment. And he like whenever he listens to my show, he says is like, I just have to replay your intro like 3 or 4 times.
Oh,
and,
hey, Kevin.
Yes.
I have an actor showing up right now to record some Space Ward.
Okay.
He is at my door. I am buzzing him in.
Okay.
Can we do some sort of outro, or would you like
if
to
you
pick
just want
this up, or
if you want to buzz him in, and we'll take like 2 minutes to wrap it up.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I just buzzed him in, and
cool.
I'm gonna let him in the apartment really quick, and then all right. Sorry.
Let me know when you're back, and we'll wrap it up.
Great. Hate to cut you short, man.
No, that's not a problem.
But thank you so much, and I need to shout out Casey when we're back for sure.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Okay, give me just 1 minute. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem.
Actually, Jared, if you want to come in here, you can come in here as well. Just finishing this up. Hey, I am back.
All right, cool. All right, Matt, there's so much more that I wanted to get to, but I know you have a schedule that you have to keep up, so I won't force you to stay here any longer than you have to. So before we officially end the show, why don't you let everyone know where they can find you and whatnot.
Great. First of all, I just wanted to shout out Casey Spivey. Casey's an actress that did. She was in Game of Thrones, the musical, with me. She is a hustler to the max. Find her on all the social media platforms available everywhere. You can't miss her. She's amazing. She's the one that hooked me up with Kevin. So thank you, Casey. You rock. Also, the reason we're cutting this short is because I have Jarrett Sullivan here, who is going to be one of the new characters coming to Space Ward, and we're going to get him in the booth. You can find Space Ward at The Space Ward on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, on Facebook. You can go to www.thespaceward.com to listen to all of our episodes. You can find Space Ward on Patreon at patreon.com/thespaceward. We just got our first 2 patrons today, and very excited.
Probably because
about
Patreon
that.
made the announcement that they're not going to suck anymore.
Right, exactly. And also, I promised the first 5 people that became patrons that I'd write them into season 1. So there's still 3 slots available as of right now.
Interesting.
Yeah. And thank you, Kevin, so much for having me. And I'd love to come back on. Time for me.
Totally. You are kicking off 2018 for us with this episode, but we will have to have you back on because, like I said, I wanted to talk Game of Thrones, the musical, and everything else that you've done. So we'll have you back on where we can talk wrestling some more, and we can talk the rest of the things that you do. Matt, thanks for doing the show.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. On that note, I want to kick it to me in the future to finish the show off.
All right. Thanks a lot, Kevin.
Thank you for doing the show.
All right, man. Have a good night.
Thanks once again to Matt for coming on the show. What a great conversation. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Matt M. Fowler. That's MATTMFOWLER. And follow Space Ward at The Space Ward. While you're there, make sure you follow me on Twitter at ThatNerdyKev and the podcast at Real Awesome Pod. You can find Space Ward on iTunes. Be sure to subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and review, and while you're at it, it's also a great way to support Everything is Awesome. Leave that 5-star rating and review. Apple Math does wonders. You can also support us with a small monetary pledge on patreon.com/thatentertains, which is in the process of getting rebooted to offer more exclusive content. I talked about it at the top of the show. Word of mouth recommendations is also a tremendous way that you can help. Oh, and hey, the things that you do to support us, the rating and the reviewing, the Patreon, the word of mouth recommendation, all that lets us do really cool things like live shows. On January 28th, 2018 at Tattooed Mom on South Street, we're going to be live as part of the 2nd annual Everything is Awesome Let's Have Cancer Podiversary Festival. That's right. It's a festival that celebrates podcasting here in Philadelphia. It's kind of looked at as the preview to the Philadelphia Podcast Festival we have in the summer. It's also a celebration of the anniversary of Everything is Awesome, 2 years this February 1st. So we're celebrating a couple days early as part of this festival. And of course, most importantly, it's to help raise awareness to fuck cancer. They are a great organization, and we are trying to raise awareness to what they do. We're trying to raise money so that they can do the things that they do, and they are truly mean a lot to me. So it would be great if you could make it out to Tattooed Moms from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. We're going to be joined by a bunch of great shows like Nerds with Words, Full Belly Laughs, I Like to Movie, and a couple more. It's going to be a day full of fun live podcasting. Come out, support one, support all. It's going to be a fun day. Hope to see you there January 28th, 2018 from 1 to 7 p.m. at Tattooed Mom on South Street in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We've been awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Court and Parts Podcast Network. To listen to more Court and Parts shows, visit courtandarts.com.